Hello, my name is Kathy, and today I'm going to tell you a few stories of the time that I spent in the Queen Charlotte Islands, or as they're called now, Haida, Gwaii. I moved up to the big southern island, Moresby Island, in the chain of islands that form Haida, Gwaii back in 1974, and spent an incredible year there, living and experiencing life in the deep bush country, and interacting with the local Indian people, the Haida. I lived in a remote logging camp there, where the only way in or out was by small bush float plane. The only other means of transportation was via your own boat. I loved to explore the deserted islands of the Southern Islands area in my 16-foot motorboat. There were innumerable times where large gray whales would rise to the surface of the ocean and spout out air as they do. This is a bit smelly, by the way. Not more than 25 feet from the side of my little boat. This was an amazing experience. Something that huge rising out of the ocean's depths like a monster from the deep to gently rise, exhale, and then sink slowly down below the ocean's surface, all in the space of 10 to 15 minutes, gone almost too quickly to fathom what had just happened. Other times, schools of dolphins would swim with my boat. They would get so close that you could almost reach out and touch them as they swam just below the ocean's surface in time with my boat. One time, a school of dolphins swam so close that they were no more than 6 feet off the side of my boat. It was wonderful. The day was beautiful, just a perfect day. The sun was shining and it wasn't too hot or too cold, just perfect, with this incredible blue sky above and the school of dolphins swimming in sync with the boat. Just beautiful. When I was living on the southern island, they used to have salmon runs that were astounding. I swear to God that you could just about walk on the backs of the salmon at the mouths of the rivers, so dense were the schools of returning salmon. It was amazing to see, absolutely amazing. Salmon turned into a staple item of my diet while I lived there, and boy was it ever good. Cold water, northern salmon, delicious. Other things from the sea were bountiful as well. I, in particular, used to like the butter clams that you could easily dig out of the wet sand of the beaches. I used to take a metal bucket with a handle and would be able to collect 8 to 12 or so butter clams with each shovelful of sand that I dug up. That's how plentiful they were. It was amazing. The mussels were equally plentiful as well, and the scallops were everywhere. I had a friend who was a scuba diver, and he got me a really big and thick scallop shell from the deeper waters that I still have today. I used to go salmon fishing with friends out on the inlet, and I can remember catching my very first fish of my life. It was a 17-pound coho salmon. Well, I didn't exactly catch it. I actually snagged it on its back. It didn't go for my hook. Oh well, it was still my first fish. On that same fishing trip, a friend discovered the secret of catching salmon for that particular day. He would troll along in the boat for about 3 minutes, then cut the motor and let the fish hook sink. Naturally. Now, within 5 minutes, he would catch himself a large salmon. He did this over and over again to the tune of 8 to 19 pound salmon. That's a pretty big fish. Not a bad catch for the day. Who would have thought that this fishing technique would have worked so well? It's strange how that is. One day this works, the next day something else. Oh well, we figured it out for that day at least. I had an adventure while living on the Misty Isles, actually several adventures, but in this particular one, I was shipwrecked on one of the deserted islands, far from anything. It all started with one of my exploration trips around the deserted islands in this chain of islands. I was having a great time with my partner of the time and another couple when a storm blew up. There was no way on earth we were going to make it back home before that storm hit, and it looked like it was going to be an extremely nasty storm. I wasn't wrong in my estimate of what that storm was turning into. We were about 1 to 2 miles offshore of one of the deserted islands, and we made the decision that we had to get to that shore fast. So we made our way to this island as fast as we could. With each passing moment, the storm got more and more violent, and the waves higher and higher, and the rain poured down in sheets almost sideways. It was a horrible storm. The waves were beginning to reach such heights that when the bow of the boat hit them, not only was there white water splashing and drowning us with water, but the bow water was getting deeper, and it was green-blue water that was coming at the bow. We were acting almost like a submarine at this point. We barely made it to shore, and I kid you not, it was scary. We were all drenched to the skin, shivering and cold. The boat was broken, and you could not go out on the water anyway, even if it was intact. Night was falling, and things were taking a very serious turn. Survival was starting to become the leading thought in all of our minds. This was serious. Before we crashed up on the beach of the island, we noticed an abandoned trapper's cabin about 2 miles up the beach from our current location, so we made our way to it. The cabin had not been used for what looked like years, but there was a wood-burning stove and some old coal oil lamps. We lit a lamp and checked out the interior of this one-room trapper's cabin. It had a plain plank floor and was made of logs from the surrounding forest of the island, and was as primitive could be. We all went outside and collected firewood from the forest, and we made a fire in the wood stove. Soon the cabin warmed up, and with the soft glow of the coil oil lamps, it wasn't such a bad place to be on such a stormy night. I went into survival mode and went to the beach and began digging the plentiful butter clams that abounded all through the island chains. I brought them back, and we boiled them and had them for our supper. The area is filled with streams, so finding fresh water was not an issue. We filled some containers from the cabin and had water, warmth, and some food in the form of the clams. We sat around and talked until we went to sleep, huddled around the wood stove for warmth. In the morning, we made a huge sign on the beach to indicate that we needed to be rescued. Then we got a huge, I'm talking 20 to 25 foot tall branch of a tree, and wrapped a shirt on the top, and we used it as a flag to flag down any boat we might see in the inlet. It took the whole day, but finally a boat came to our aid and we were rescued. Another less dramatic trip in the Misty Isles took place on another beautiful day. Quiet, calm, warm weather, blue skies. Just beautiful. We were exploring an island and found an old fish cannery in the late 1800s, the Misty Isles were dotted with fish canneries because of the bounty of salmon in the area. These closed down around the turn of the 1900s, and you could often find amazing antiques in such places. As an example, I found an ancient Edison light bulb that was intact. Those are one of the first light bulbs made, and they had a little nipple on the end of them from the manufacturing process. One of these canneries had old posters from the turn of the last century and other relics of bygone eras. It was just amazing. The old tools, glass jars, wonderful. On another trip, We would find deserted logging equipment from ages past, old steam-driven donkey engines that would power the long lines that the chokermen tied the fallen logs to, saws, and many other rusted pieces of metal that were once tools of the trade. Well, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed my stories of the Misty Isles. To stay up to date with my latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this free YouTube channel by clicking the red subscription button right below this video. Take care!